speaking. Roll call, please.
Powell.
Here, Pontiac.
Hoffman. McGilvray.
Here, Madison Heights.
Jackson.
Here, Southfield.
Nelson.
Here. Oh, Waterford Township.
Cavell.
Here, Ferndale.
Gingell. Kuhn.
Here, Detroit.
Lubes.
Here in Clausen.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And next is approval to the, of the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes of the previous meeting? If not, we need a motion to approve the minutes of March 2nd. I have a motion by Commissioner McGilvray, support from Commissioner Jackson. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? The motion is carried. Next is approval of the agenda. Are there any changes or corrections to the agenda? Commissioner Kuhn?
Madam Chair, I would like to remove Auburn Hills from the consent agenda for dispatch services.
And what number is that, Commissioner Kuhn?
Okay. You're going to challenge me here.
It's 1X.
1X.
Thank you.
There, we have a number of items on the consent agenda, and under Sheriff would like to speak on this, so we will be able to allow him to speak on that item. We can move 1X then to the first item on our regular agenda. So on our agenda, we're moving 1X off the consent agenda to the first item. Are there any other changes? And I need a motion. Who would like to make a motion? Moved by Commissioner Powell, supported by Commissioner Nelson. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That motion is carried. We'll move on to public comment. Is there anybody from the public wishing to speak?
Good morning. I currently calls that I have two submissions. One was for the public came in.
You're going in and
late.
out.
There are no.
Andrea, it's difficult to hear you.
First in succession. Can you hear me okay?
Now we can, thank you.
Okay. Okay, we'll move closer to, okay. And your caller lines are open and stable. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. I have two written submissions. One was from last week that came in late. I'll read that first in succession. And stop me if I lose signal. Casey Messiter writes from Saline. Hello, my name is Casey Messiter. I'm a resident of Saline and I'm a graduate and student of social work at the University of Michigan. I currently work in Detroit at my graduate internship. I'm writing today because Oakland County needs to prioritize people with disabilities in the COVID-19 vaccination rollout. My best friend Eli is autistic. We know that people with diabetes are at a higher risk of contracting, having serious complications from, and dying from COVID-19. Please protect. The next written submission is from Samantha Hallman from My Look. She writes, "This is Sunshine Week, which celebrates open government and access to public information. Given this today's agenda of 57 and 54, I want to make this. I want that this report does not 50-second strict. I want to make copies of audio or video, despite having the staff and equipment to do so. With 7 minutes, I request this practice date to work with the administrative office at OC to read 04 in turn for
Now you're going in and out again.
20 rich tax funds. And that's the end of your written submission, and there are no callers and no additional auditorium to speak. Okay, there's no more public comment.
Thank you. All right.
There's no more to get a better
Welcome to technology.
comment.
Thank you. Public comment is closed then. We move on to our to communications. We need a motion to receive and file Communication A, the Emergency Management and Homeland Security Division, 2021 Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness Grant Application. I have a motion by Commissioner Hoffman, support from, who would like to support that? Commissioner Nelson. Any comments or questions? All in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Kuhn has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I take it there's no one here from the staff who can answer any questions about this grant, but I did have a couple. Who would I contact about that? Is that Mr. Hardesty?
I would believe it would be Mr. Hardesty.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. We'll move on to our regular. We move on to our consent agenda now. We have a number of items. We pulled one off to be the first item on our regular agenda. Does anybody have any questions on the consent agenda? Then I will entertain a motion. I have a motion by Commissioner Nelson, support from Commissioner McGilvery. Any comments on the number of items from the consent agenda, which are from the Sheriff's Department and a number of agreements, fire dispatch service agreements, and police dispatch service agreements, and police and fire dispatch agreements? All right, seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, the motion is carried. Thank you. So the first item on our regular agenda is Sheriff's Office Police and Fire Dispatch Service Agreement with the City of Auburn Hills for April 1st, 2021 to March 31st, 2024. I have a motion. Who do I have a motion from? I have a motion from Commissioner Kuhn, support from Commissioner Jackson. Welcome under Sheriff.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I'll give you a little bit of history on this. And then I also have Captain Mel Meyer on here, who runs our dispatch center, our operations center. And of course, Gaia is on here, and Major Wandrick. But many of you may be wondering, why is this on April 1st? Little history here that a lot of people don't know. Only us old people that have been around a long time know this. back when, going back to Dan Murphy's day when he was county executive, he had what was called the Public Safety Department that patrolled the county campus. This is back in the late 70s and early 80s. And at that time, they dispatched fire for Groveland Township and the North Oakland County Fire Department. Fast forward to the mid 80s, I think it was, and that department was absorbed by the sheriff's office. And as a result of that, we inherited the dispatch contract for those two fire departments. So those are the first two fire departments that we dispatched for. And the reason the contract was effective April 1 is because North Oakland Fire was Holly and Rose Township, and they are general law townships. So their budgets, as a result, start on April 1st because they are general law townships. So that's why why does it start April 1st as opposed to when the patrol contracts start and the county budget starts? That's a little bit of history for you. So that has grown into, as time has gone on, a consolidation of dispatch services that have occurred throughout the county. And we have taken on the responsibility through intergovernmental agreements with local municipalities to expand to, I believe, Mel, correct me if I'm wrong, 19 fire departments now that we dispatch for. You're muted. Well, it's night, yeah.
Sorry,
19.
sir. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Sorry.
Okay, so 19 fire departments.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then how many police agencies?
We have 10 police agencies. We do EMS in the city of Pontiac, as well as our animal control here for the county.
So you can see we are the second largest dispatch center in the state of Michigan. The only larger dispatch center is the city of Detroit. We service under police contract dispatch, including the 15 municipalities that have us as their local police department under contract. And those contracts will come to you later in the year, in the fall. But we service as the local police department about 365,000 people. But then, of course, we service all those fire departments and other police departments. So we really do have a large dispatch center. And I know one of the things the board has been looking at for many years is the consolidation of PSAPs, or public safety answering points, where you call 911. So when I started here in the sheriff's office, we had 36 PSAPs, 36. Today we're down to, Mel, is it 20?
Correct, sir.
Okay, we're down to 20. So there's been a large consolidation, courtesy of the county and the Board of Commissioners and the county executive. So the contracts that are before you today, and I know the commissioner pulled off Auburn Hills, so we can talk about that a little bit more, not necessarily about Auburn Hills, but about all these contracts. So what we're doing today is we're asking you to approve these contracts, move the process forward, and Mel and Gaia can explain to you how we establish these rates. It's a long established rate, and I'll let Gaia step in on that and fill you in on as to how the rates are established.
Thank you.
Good morning, commissioners. So basically, we take the dispatch center budget. They've done work studies in the past, so we know what percentage is dedicated to fire, what percentage is dedicated to police services. So we take those percentages of the budget. We take the overall volume of calls. That's how we develop the per call rate for fire. And then we take all of the police officers, including the ones that we contract for, which the undersheriff mentioned. You'll see the agreements later in the year, and then divide it by the number of full-time equivalent police officers, and that's how we come up with the per officer rate. So there's a lot of information that goes into it, but it's a pretty simple calculation. And then obviously we take it per community, and that's how we come up with their monthly amounts and their annual amounts that are included in the agreements and the resolution.
If I could add also, normally we'd be bringing these rates to you a little earlier in the year, but because of COVID and the massive amount of work that, quite frankly, it's been, I'll just describe it as a nightmare. And you all know that. I'm not telling something you already know. So Gaia and Mel worked long hours on this, trying to get it ready and bring it to you today. But like I say, normally this is probably about, we would have been maybe 4 weeks earlier on this, but with everything that's going on with COVID, it's been a struggle, but here we are.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding this first item about the Auburn Hills contract? Commissioner Kuhn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a couple questions, and basically, I know in Auburn Hills, they went from a in-house dispatch to the county, and it saved them a huge amount of money. And of course, we recognize the autonomy and independence of our local communities. But I just wanted to ask Captain Meyer how things are going there. I know they have a very strong city council that is very concerned about the service provided. And last I heard, they were extraordinarily happy with the level of service and, of course, the great savings, which that they were able to do by using the county services.
Commissioner, thank you. And that continues to this day. We've provided this past year alone in the city of Auburn Hills about 20,000 calls for the fire department or police department, and almost 3,500 for the fire department alone. And that's out of 380,000 calls, but it's pretty significant. They're a very busy city. They're placed between a freeway, industrial and residential areas. They are challenged by that. And we met that challenge. We've had days where there have been so many runoffs on the freeway or crashes that they really break up the way things are done. Working with the police department and the fire department as closely as we do every day has been really beneficial. Understanding the relationship between the Oakland County Sheriff's Office that provides some additional services has also been beneficial because we can get them quicker. The non-emergency calls, we're able to handle those to assist them also as they did this consolidation. And I'm happy to report this is a success, and the relationship continues to grow. And I look forward to working with them every day. And right now, as we move forward, I think we've seen efficiencies in the delivery of services, and improvement is an understanding of what the city needs. And really, we've met those challenges. So,
Madam Chair, if I could add.
Commissioner Kuhn, just saw, I've exchanged a couple emails with Tom Tangi, the city manager, last Friday. And he put in the email, Mike, I'm your biggest supporter for the sheriff's office, just so you know.
Yeah, okay. And, again, I represent Auburn Hills, or part of it anyway. And I know that Tom Tangi, as the city manager, saved a lot of money. And he was happy from that perspective. But the city council was also very, very concerned that the dispatch would be able to really zone in on the local area. And I'm so happy that that has also occurred here. And, I know we can't do a public release or public service announcement, but really, having served 12 years on the Royal Oak City Commission, this is an area where city governments could save a lot of money and utilize these regional services. And that's what they are here when the county sheriff offers this. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Cavell?
Thanks. Yeah, I have two questions. One probably more for Gaia and one for Mel. So for Mel, I was talking with someone from OCHN and Common Ground, and they were talking about crisis intervention and 911 dispatch and all that sort of thing. Is there anything like that currently in OSCO? And if not, would that be something you're interested in?
Absolutely. Working with the community partners and the mental health especially has been very important to the sheriff's office. We've looked at some pilot projects in the city of Pontiac. I think we're always open to do that. One of the things we use here are medical-based protocols, and part of those protocols address mental illness, dependency on whether it's chemicals or alcohol. And some of those services really can be tied together, and I think that the ability to those services to the residents needs to grow. So as we move forward, yes, we're open to all those partnerships.
Okay, good to hear. You said needs to grow, so it's not satisfactory yet.
we have a lot of opportunity as we move forward, and this is one of those things that has been piloted around the nation. And we see the benefits of that, which gives us the ability to weigh in a little more on that. So absolutely.
Cool. Thank you, Mel. And then for Gaya,
Commissioner, I might add, we were the first department in the county to do crisis intervention training, just so you know. Everybody in the jail is trained on it, and a large portion of the road patrol is, and we do in-service training on that. So Kalamazoo was the leader on that. Several years ago, we actually brought in a sergeant from Kalamazoo to the board and explained it. And that's got to be maybe over 6 years ago. And I just want to know, we're one of the leaders in that area, just so you know.
okay, thank you. So Gaya, I was curious about the increases in the contracts for everybody. Just looking through it, I see that, like, for example, Pontiac is paying $380 for the medical dispatch, but then we'll be paying over $400,000 in a couple years. And I see that all of them increase. Is that rate of increase the same, or is there some sort of formula behind that?
For the out years, for the current year, obviously it was based on the last 3-year average number of calls. That's how we got the per call rate. And then for the out years, it's a 3% increase. So we always try to, our goal is to, obviously it depends on what we have budgeted, because we're not making any money. We are just recouping our costs. So the out years are a 3% increase.
Okay, thank you.
So yes, that's the formula, simple formula.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments regarding this first item? That I would like to say, Commissioner Kuhn, that the Auburn Hills Police Department are well-trained in mental health issues and have collaborated with various agencies. And I'm happy to support their services and the initiatives that the Oakland County Sheriffs have to address mental health issues. All right, seeing no further discussion, we need a roll call.
Howell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
and if you could state where you're calling in from?
Yeah, thank you.
Sunny Rose Township.
Thank you. McGillivray,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Cavell,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Lubes.
Yes.
We have 8 yeas, 0 nays.
All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners.
Thank you. Our next item is from Health and Human Services, Amendment 2, supplemental to the fiscal year 2021 Local Health Department Comprehensive Agreement. So I will entertain a motion. Motion from, who would like to, Commissioner Nelson, support from Commissioner McGillivray. And we have Leanne Stafford here to talk about this item.
Hello. I think it's morning. Yes, it's still morning. Good morning, everyone. So this amendment is our normal local health department grant. You probably have heard the acronym we use, CPBC. And so this is specific to funding for COVID immunizations only. And so this is really centered around additional supplies, salaries, and then professional services. And so that's where the majority of the funding will be spent, around salaries for overtime. Obviously, we have staff that are working 7 days a week. We're also using contractors that can assist us out at the sites, that can vaccinate and can also help us with other activities as we continue to provide vaccination clinics. We also have people helping us take appointments, that is contractors as well. So, you know, we've kind of been ramping up as we continue to receive more vaccine to really help expand our personnel here at the Health Division. So if anybody has any questions, I can take them now.
Thank you. Any questions? Commissioner Powell?
Leanne, who in your office, because I know you're busy, that we can talk to find out all the location sites that you all have in our districts?
We can provide those to you. I can send them to someone on this call, do I send them to Barb Winters? So you will know where
Yes,
we're.
please. Yeah. But you rotate every week, correct? You don't have them.
Right. And Commissioner Powell, I can reach out to you and kind of talk to you about our plans moving forward so that you're aware of those.
Right, because I just been seeing some popping up. I didn't know if those were like pop-up locations or if they were, permanent. So yes, I just want to be debriefed. Because I like to keep the channels of communication clear in my city because things can get a little mixed up. So
and we do have some things coming up, so I definitely will reach out to you and provide those to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Jackson?
Hi, Leanne, and thank you for presenting to us today and all your hard work. I just wanted to revisit a question for you in regards to the funeral home workers.
Mm-hmm.
I never got a really firm response on if they're eligible right now as essential workers.
Yeah, so let me kind of talk about really quick. I'll take a few minutes and talk about what the state has changed. So basically what the change that kind of the state went to is they started with this essential workers, right? So you really saw in phase 1A, and we've kind of really moved away from the phases. So they started with, healthcare workers, long-term cares, and then they kind of moved into teachers and law enforcement, fire, and then they moved to ages. So they kind of changed from this essential worker group to more of an age base. So what they've looked at is obviously 65 and over was that, kind of highest priority, which here in Oakland County, we're still working through because we did have such demand from that group, which was great. But the state has kind of opened the eligibility now using, the ages. And so starting last week, it was 50 and over with a disability, and they really didn't define disability, but, basically said, any disability starting on the 22nd is those that are 50 and over. You don't have to have a disability, and those that are 16 and over with a disability. And then starting April 5th, it's anyone 16 and over that wants a vaccine. So, really open the eligibility, which allows us to move from the groups, kind of seamlessly as we, finish, kind of that highest priority group. And so what we're doing now is obviously we're hoping, we've been taking registrations for all age groups, right? It really didn't depend on a certain age. We were taking it for everyone. And so once someone is on Save Your Spot, and we can invite them, again, maybe the next group is those that have, 50 and over with a disability, right? And so we'll continue to invite based on priority and highest priority as we move through the sites and move through the vaccine as we have it available. So funeral home workers, depending on their age, right? I mean, if you look at it now, it really just if they're registered, we will start inviting them based on those ages as well.
Well, I just want to say that the funeral home that has been contacting me about that in my district is very disappointed because her some of her workers were able to get vaccinated because they were high prioritized. The high priority was given to them in Detroit. And so for Detroit to put these workers as essential when they're dealing with deaths and dealing with people who have died from COVID and their families who have been exposed during that process. So I just, people really rallied to get disabled people moved in and moved up. And I really would just ask you if at all possible, we could get that group of workers moved in. I know what the state is doing, but I know the county has decision-making opportunities as well. And a lot of those workers aren't over 65 and they're dealing with this up close and personal in their workplace. So, but it is what it is. They have to be over, it's based upon more so an age range than an essential worker category.
That's kind of the direction that they're moving toward. Yes. If you will forward me their information, if you could just send me an email, let me just take a look at that. If you have a certain person that we can talk to, and let me.
I do.
Okay. If you'll forward me her.
Okay, that would be,
his or her
that would
information.
be wonderful.
Okay. Yeah, we
Okay,
can
thank you so much. I will. All right. Okay.
So, Commissioner Cavell, I have a question before yours, sorry. So, Leanne, what about our own employees at Oakland County? How have they been prioritized?
So we have prioritized, there's been groups that have been prioritized. We're still working with HR to create some additional opportunities for people to be vaccinated. And so we're working through them. Obviously, if they're also on Save Your Spot, they could be invited that way if they're a certain, in a certain age group. But we have been working through the certain groups. And so HR and the health division will continue to work through those, especially as people come back to the workplace. We know that will continue to occur. And so we'll provide opportunities. We haven't offered necessarily special clinics. Instead, we've invited these employees to our existing clinics, similar to like we do with our population. So we're not offering special clinics, instead of kind of inviting them and allowing them to schedule based on their availability as well. So we'll continue to invite them through as we continue through these clinics.
Thank you. Commissioner Cavell?
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Leanne. Two things. One, with the thing you're talking to us about today, could you give us a little insight into what the $250,000 in advertising could go to? Because I know we've talked several times about the need for people without internet access to be able to have like a postcard or some sort of information. So what were you all thinking about that?
We put money in the advertising. Again, we know there are lots of ways we need to communicate. We know we want to get out into communities that maybe need some assistance and even have, paper forms. And so how do we advertise to say, is it a postcard? Is it a mailing? And so we're still working through those details, but we're definitely trying to think about, outside the box and not just, necessarily, and, maybe we're going to do some newspaper ads as well, or maybe, we haven't really thought through it all the way, but we know we need to do some additional outreach. And so we'll be using that money to try to do that. Some of the ideas that you had talked to us about, we're working with the executive office on things that they may be doing as well, so that we can get the word out and get people registered and vaccinated, at some of our special sites as well.
Okay, thank you. And then the second thing I was wondering about, you mentioned it a little bit, is the disability stuff. So, right, as we've seen, March 22nd, people with disabilities are allowed to be vaccinated or sign up. And then April 5th, everyone else gets to sign up, 16 up. So there's concern from people I've heard from, and you're CC'd on these emails, please respond to them, that there's not going to be a big enough window of availability, or there won't be enough shots, or there won't be enough, preferential treatment given to people with autism or with other physical and mental disabilities. Can you help allay any of those concerns? And I can also give you the information per Janet Jackson, Commissioner Jackson, what she was saying. Love to give you the information of those people that you can also talk to.
Yeah. And I just replied to an email at the beginning of this too. So we're working with a couple of organizations. So OCHN, we're probably going to reach out to Easter Seals, JVS, Jewish Vocational Services, that Detroit Power, which I know was on the email. We're partnering with them to talk about, some special opportunities where we can offer some vaccine clinics. I think the eligibility, right, is one thing. The availability of vaccine is another. And so we know that there are special populations that we need to continue to create, to have priority, you know. So just because it's open and eligible for everyone doesn't mean that we're going to invite everyone that's 16 and over. We understand that there's still special populations. You know, again, I talk about the 65 and over, right? We still know, as of last week, we had 60,000 65 and over still on our list, right?
Yeah.
They are still the highest priority and will be given priority until we know that, you know, it's never going to be everyone's invited until we start with the next group, right? But we are going to try to continue to prioritize them so that we can offer that vaccine. You know, we'll continue to do that with, you know, the 50 and plus, and then the 16 and plus with disabilities, those caregivers that were considered higher priority. So the eligibility group is expanding, but again, the vaccine availability is still limited, right? And so we'll continue to invite those groups and work through them based on their priority.
Okay, so just to be sure I understand, you're saying that 65 and up and 50 and up are priority 1, then 16 and up with disabilities priority 2, and essential care workers priority 2, and then other individuals priority 3.
Yeah, so it's 65 and over, 50 plus with that disabilities are first.
Okay.
And then the caregivers were actually included in there, caregivers of children,
Okay.
right, that have special needs. And then 50 and over, and that 16 and plus with disabilities really are, you know, that same priority that we will start to invite. And then 16 plus are what we're calling general population, right? I mean, we will get to that point at some time, but we still have, you know, a significant number in those higher priorities that we need to get to it and send an invitation to first.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate
Thank
the clarification.
And Leon, anybody now is able to enter their information into Save a Spot or call so that when the dose is available, we will
Correct.
contact them.
Correct. And that's what we're hoping people have done. You know, after the first 3 or 4 weeks, we opened it up to everyone, right? Anyone could sign up for Save Your Spot. It was just that we were pulling people based on what their priority was, whether it was age, again, essential employees to start with. And now, again, you know, really it's focused around age and, you know, and occupation to invite people and disability. So that's how we're able to pull people on the list. So that's, you know, they can call Nurse on Call as well. Nurse on Call can get them registered. We add more people to the lines, hopefully every day, just to try to answer those calls and assist people that need assistance.
Thank you. All right, are there any other questions on our comprehensive agreement with the local health department? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Hoffman,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Cabell,
Yes.
Boone,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Lubes.
Yes,
8 yeas, 0 nays.
thank you. That motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. All right, next item is also from Health and Human Services, Neighborhood and Housing Development Division. Amendment over 15% to fiscal year 2019 annual action plan and special grant allocation acceptance for coronavirus aid, relief, and economic security. The CARES Act Emergency Solutions Grant Round 2. So who would like to make a motion? So I have a motion by Commissioner McGilvray, support from Commissioner Nelson. And we have Shane here to talk to this item. Thank you. Welcome. Well, we can see you, but we can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry. The same thing that last week happened. Can you call, please, Shane? And we won't give up.
we have become accustomed to technology in this age, and so when it doesn't work, I should not be surprised anymore, but I still am. Oh, I see caller 3. Would that be Shane?
This is Shane. I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Much better.
Okay. One of these days, I'm going to get this worked out with my technology. But in the meantime, I do appreciate everybody's patience. So
Sure.
I'm here to discuss the acceptance of our Emergency Solutions Grant additional COVID funding. This is additional funding to help support agencies that are responding to people experiencing homelessness and people who are receiving homeless services. And so this goes to assisting places like Hope, Community Housing Network, Lighthouse, and others with shelter operations costs, both as COVID-related expenses and potentially hotel rooms to help reduce the density of people in a shelter, as well as goes to helping to stand up additional homeless prevention and rapid rehousing activities. And so, for example, we got a legal aid and defender group on there as well that is working with people who are in the process of being housed. And so part of this, we have a small portion that we take for administration so our staff can help process the reimbursement requests. And we also have a portion of it that goes to support the homeless management information system that the Alliance uses to keep track of everyone that is being assisted with this funding and other homeless response services. And so this additional $2 million is on this additional $2 million is on top of the $1.1 million that we received back in July. Of that initial $1.1 million that was used for very similar type activities, over 55% of that has already been spent and is out the door, and the rest is quickly on its way to going for those same activities. And because the pandemic is ongoing, there's going to be a continued need to support those service agencies out there with this additional COVID funding. So that's the big picture of this particular acceptance agreement that you have in front of you. And I just wanted to open up the floor for any questions about this particular agreement.
Thank you, Shane. Commissioner Kuhn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did have a couple questions, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today. I know that last year when we had this CARE stuff, there was a time deadline for actual expenditure. Is there a time deadline with these new funds?
For the Emergency Services Solution Grant, it's, to be honest with you, it's, if I remember correctly, the agreement says we got to have this spent out by June of 2022, June 24th, 2022. But to be honest with you, I anticipate that these dollars will be gone probably by the end of summer. So that's one of those like end dates I've never really focused on. But yes, we got to have it spent by June of 2022.
Okay, thank you. And Madam Chair, if I could ask just a couple other questions.
Sure.
All right. I'm new on this committee. Can you just give us some, more specific details on what you're doing for homeless and emergency shelters?
Yeah, absolutely. So internally in our own division, we have 3 HUD certified housing counselors that can help anybody on any number of items like mortgage education, mortgage assistance, and those very detailed ways of getting somebody able to buy a home or get them into a rental situation. And then we also have currently, with additional funding from HUD, which is from our Community Development Block Grant CARES Act funding, we are continuing to fund a rent, mortgage, and utility assistance program. That is, right now we're not taking any additional applications for that until we get the agreements officially accepted to get in some additional dollars. Probably that'll happen by the end of April, beginning of May. But again, if there are certain clients that are facing a eviction, like they have a court date or they have a priority thing, we will talk with those clients and we'll look at to prioritizing them for those services. And that is what we're doing internally directly ourselves. What we are doing with this ESG funding, and is what we do with our regular emergency solutions grant funding that we get every year. We get every year about $330,000 or so every year from HUD. This is CARES related ESG funding to support similar type work of those various community service agencies that are set up to do a lot more directly with people experiencing homelessness and people at risk of experiencing homelessness. And so they will do rapid rehousing activities such as getting them set up in a hotel and motel to then quickly transition them back to a place of living, because the majority of our homeless people experiencing homelessness in Oakland County, are fairly new to being homeless. And so it's getting them out of homelessness, being housed as quickly as possible. And so a lot of this funding goes to support those kinds of services that are being done by the Alliance for Housing, Community Housing Network, Lighthouse, Hope in Pontiac, Haven is another one that we support with this funding, as well as Welcome In. And so what we do is we put out a request for for applications from these same ones that we always get. Then we always put it on our website and reach out to some others that we think would be a good fit for this funding and see if they're interested in it. Sometimes agencies don't want to necessarily take the money because it means that they have to do some HUD required things like use the hospital management information system. And frankly, not every agency thinks the money is worth it to do that. The ones that are getting it clearly do, and they're comfortable with using that system. And so that's some of the ones that we support. So we have some direct services we do, but a lot of what is done out there in the community with people experiencing homelessness are done by other third-party service agencies, and we're using this funding to support them because very often they used to rely, and still do to an extent, on volunteers, but due to the pandemic, that volunteer base has been reduced, and so they actually need to pay a little bit more to entice people to come out and assist in different ways at their agencies. So a lot of this funding goes to support those kinds of gap funding holes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. But I could just ask a couple more questions. In this resolution, it talks about some new positions. Can you tell us what those new positions are and how they will aid your job over there?
Yeah, so I don't believe, and if they have been, then this is a typo we need to address. I don't believe they're new positions. They're current positions that will be partially supported with this funding, and those are that's our housing counseling supervisor and one of our housing counselors, and that is simply just a modicum of administration cost, salaries, and fringe benefits to support the processing of the paperwork and getting the funding out to these service agencies.
Okay, and I might have misread that. With regard, on page 295 of our packet, it has something about a third-party documentation not needed. Do you know what that's about? For certain individuals to get help, they don't need third-party documentation.
Serving youth, so the page 295, serving youth who lack third-party documentation or life in unsafe situations.
Right. Can you explain that a little bit?
Oh, okay. So this is simply loosening the restrictions on with HUD funding under regular ESG. We're required to have different entities basically attest to the fact that the person who they are serving is truly homeless or meets the HUD definition of homelessness. This is simply saying that we're not required for youth to provide that third-party documentation, and it's an effort to make sure that this funding has the least amount of barriers to serving people who are considered youth.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other questions regarding this item? Seeing none, roll call, please.
McGillivray,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Cavell,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Lubes.
Yes.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion carried. Thank you. Thank you, Shane.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Our next item is from the Sheriff's Office, transfer of ownership and release of claims agreement for canine dog Lex. So I have a motion from Commissioner Nelson, support from Commissioner McGilvery. And, oh, sorry, I just saw Commissioner Hoffman now. All right, under Sheriff, this is a happy item for Lex.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. This particular dog, Lex, is a Belgian Malinois. It's one of our explosive dogs. The dog is is retiring. The dog is almost 9 years old, which is really a little bit beyond expectations. Sadly, to report to you, this dog is we're selling it to Deputy Loken, and then he's going to retire the dog to a place where police canines retire to. Deputy Loken, as you may know, it's been on TV, unfortunately has stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And so he is not able to work at this time, and it's a very sad situation, but as is the tradition, and as we have always done, we always let the handlers buy the dogs for $1. The dogs are part of the family. They live with the family, and this is, again, one of the traditions that we do, so we're asking you to approve that today.
Thank you. Now, I'm sorry to hear about Deputy Logan.
Actually, Commissioner Gershensen's been very helpful in that matter, and working with him and his family and doing a lot of good things for him.
Thank you. Are there any further discussion about this item? Roll call, please.
Jackson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Cavell,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
McGillivray,
Yes.
Lubes.
Yes.
8 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion is carried. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Fast. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Our last scheduled item on the agenda is to establish Healthy Aging Oakland County Ad Hoc Committee. So I have a motion by Commissioner Nelson, support from Commissioner McGilvery. Commissioner Nelson, is there anything you'd like to add about this item?
Sure. Thank you, Chairman Looms. The purpose of this Healthy Aging Oakland County Ad Hoc Committee is to really look at creating a strategic plan for an aging-friendly county that meets the needs of the rapidly growing senior population that we have. I know that many commissioners are aware that in 2008, the Board of Commissioners did create an Oakland County Senior Study Group. And for over a year, this study group collaborated with multiple different organizations. And in 2010, one of the products of that study group was a document I think many of us are aware of, but the Preparing for the Silver Tsunami, a Wave of Opportunity report. And essentially, through this ad hoc committee creation now, it's really going to take a look at what we've done over the past decade in regards to the Silver Tsunami report that was completed then. And as we now look forward into our future in Oakland County, the whole sole purpose of this ad hoc committee is to really identify, and not just identify, but create a blueprint for action in order to look at how we can better serve our seniors here in Oakland County. There is a one-time funding up to $50,000 to assist in creating this blueprint. If commissioners are interested in where that is, it's the last further be it resolved on the first page, and it does continue to give a little bit more information in regards to those funds, because there is no need for a budget amendment, because the up to $50,000 is going to be available in the existing Board of Commissioners fiscal year 2021 general fund / general purpose budget from the $200,000 that was appropriated under miscellaneous resolution 2661. So I'm happy to answer any questions that commissioners may have in regards to the development of this senior ad hoc committee.
Are there any questions? Commissioner McGilvery?
Just a comment. I'd like to be part of that committee since I am one of those Silver Tsunami folks.
Okay.
Thank you. Commissioner Kuhn?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So am I, Gary, but I would like to make an amendment to increase the number here to 5 commissioners instead of 3, and I forwarded that around. And I'll speak to it once we have a second.
Thank you. All right. So Commissioner Kuhn's made an amendment. Does everybody have the amendment in front of them?
We need a second.
All right, we need a second for the amendment. Support from Commissioner Hoffman. Any further Commissioner Kuhn?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. A couple things here. You know, this is such a huge, huge issue. And just restricting it to 3, I think is doing a disservice. I have to believe there's a lot of interest on this commission for people to look at this important issue. So having 5 instead of 3, to me, makes more sense. And on top of it, having served on a committee along with Commissioner Powell last year, which was an ad hoc committee of 3, it's sort of awkward. And I know going from a study group to an ad hoc committee, we're going to under the Open Meetings Act. Even from procedural viewpoint. I'm sorry. Just from a procedural viewpoint, I think it would be easier for it to be to do its effective work and its important work in this county if we had 5 members. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman?
Thank you, Chairperson. I agree with Commissioner Kuhn. Although I'm not old enough to be on this committee, I do support this concept. And it'll be, you know, increasing it from 3 to 5 would mean 1 member from the minority and 1 from the majority. I just think, as Commissioner Kuhn said, there's so much institutional knowledge and experience with people Commissioner Kuhn's age and McGilvery's. And I think it'd be better to have 5 on the committee. You can just, you know, it'd be more broad-based and a lot of valuable input. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Cavell?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so if I read it right, and this is a question for you, Commissioner Kuhn, to clarify what Commissioner Hoffman said, if there were 5 people on the committee, 3 would be from majority party and 2 would be from minority party, based on your amendment?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Should I respond to that? I'm happy to.
Perfect, thank you.
I'm hitting the wrong buttons here. I'm sorry too. The resolution as currently written has 2 majority and 1 minority. This would add another minority and another majority.
So 3-2, right?
3-2, correct.
Okay, thank you. And then the focus on the Silver Tsunami report, the first one, Commissioner Nelson, was elder abuse, senior services. It was like a whole view. It was a wide-ranging take on what it's like to be a senior here, right? Okay.
Yes, from my understanding, and I was not obviously a part of the Silver Tsunami, Commissioner Cavell. However, I believe there's about 10 different areas that the Silver Tsunami did take a look at in regards to elder abuse and housing and transportation, and a variety of others. So I strongly encourage any and all commissioners to become familiar with that document, because it has some really great information, and I look forward to seeing what we've done since then.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments regarding the amendment? Commissioner Nelson? Oh, you're on mute.
There we go. I'm having problems with my buttons as well. So, you know, I can really truly appreciate this amendment. However, at this time, I am going to be voting no. It doesn't mean that I am open to having this discussion again. I think that given the amount of work that 3 commissioners accomplished during our last term in the Senior Isolation Task Force, I'm pretty confident in the number that we presently have for this ad hoc. However, I am not opposed to revisiting this conversation. I would like to get a little bit more insight into the information of updating the Silver Tsunami, but I definitely would like to revisit this specific amendment in the near future. But as for today, unfortunately, I am going to be voting no on this amendment.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman?
I respectfully disagree with Commissioner Nelson. The committee should be set up from the get-go, not revisiting later and adding 2 more commissioners, and then they'd have to get up to speed. 5 is not a wild number to work with, and there is so much knowledge on the board that I don't think it's too much to ask. And if it's a question about majority versus minority, it'll always be 3-2, which I don't have any problem with either for this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Cavell?
Just such a robust conversation, right? It keeps going. Thank you, Chair. I would love to, I will vote with Commissioner Nelson because it is her project. And I just want to say, though, I would love to have conversations with Commissioner Kuhn and Commissioner Hoffman and everyone else about what it looks like to have more minority voice, and also making sure that it's still something that can be a productive work group. So I would be very happy to keep that going, as you all see fit.
Commissioner Kuhn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This really wasn't motivated by minority or majority, actually. It was just as Commissioner Hoffman indicated, as Commissioner McGilvery indicated, getting people who have extensive experience in government and other commissioners who, because this is a big issue. And if you want to have an extra majority member, that would be great too. Have it, and even, you know, have a 6-person committee with 4 Democrats and 2 Republicans. Then it's not majority minority. It's about getting competence and input into this very, very critical issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the amendment? Commissioner Nelson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to add, the intentions of this ad hoc committee was solely created to look at creating another blueprint of areas of need. With that being said, I love hearing the interest from all commissioners in regards to our senior population here in Oakland County, which is, I want to remind everybody who is still interested, the goal really could end up being that a task force will be created after we have more data and insight and updates from the silver tsunami. So while I get that there is a want for more members on the ad hoc committee, I want to strongly remind and encourage those commissioners who are interested to, you know, pay attention over the next couple months in regards to opportunities to be on a task force that is going to be more specific to a specific action plan that this ad hoc committee can come back to the table with after having a strategic blueprint created and updated from the silver tsunami. So I just want to just remind everyone that this ad hoc committee isn't the only committee that's going to be looking at doing action with our seniors here across Oakland County.
Thank you. Commissioner McGilvery?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'm going to be voting in favor of the amendment. The reason being, I think when it comes to seniors, it's a very important issue. And the more the merrier. I think that that it's important, and anybody would like to weigh in on this as a committee member ought to be able to do that if at all possible.
Thank you. Commissioner Jackson?
Thank you, and I agree with Commissioner McGilvery that seniors are very important. But the process upon which this is going to be undertaken, and just chairman of a task force myself, knowing that this work is going to be examining as its first step the Silver Tsunami report that was finalized in 2008, and the work that has been done in between that time and now. And as Commissioner Nelson stated, an ad hoc committee could lead to a task force where everyone could be involved. So right now, it looks like the first step is to establish this ad hoc committee with the potential of a task force, a strong potential of a task force being formed. So I'm not going to be voting in favor of the amendment today.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call on the amendment.
On the amendment, Nelson,
No.
Lavelle,
No.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Powell,
No.
Hoffman,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Jackson,
No.
Lubes.
No.
Madam Chair, you have 5 nays and 3 yays.
Thank you. The amendment does not pass, so we'll return to our initial item, establishing the ad hoc committee. Is there any further discussion on this item? Commissioner Hoffman?
Yes, I just have one question. We're allocating $50,000 Commissioner Nelson, can you give me an idea what some of that money could possibly be spent on?
Sure. So together with AAA1B has been and was a large part of the Silver Tsunami report that was conducted over a decade ago. Fortunately, we've been able to maintain some of the staff that worked on this report through AAA1B 10 years ago, who are also going to be assisting us with not only updating the data from the Silver Tsunami, but also working with AAA1B. They've been able to take some data in light of COVID. So we've got some really beneficial data in light of the pandemic. And obviously we are all aware of the impact that the pandemic has had on our seniors. So pair the information that we have as far as what was conducted in 2010, fast forward to all the way 2020. The idea is that working alongside AAA1B and other organizations to gather what we've already been doing, where the current needs and the biggest holes are presently at, and looking at how we can close those gaps in the needs and the services that we now can identify through the updated data. There is discussions already in the works in regards to there's a high possibility that we will have additional monies to help support this strategic plan outside of the up to $50,000 that is stated in the resolution. So it is going to be the first order of business in the first meeting of the ad hoc committee to take a look at and get an update on if there was and has been grants that have been identified to help offset the cost of this strategic plan. And from what I understand, there is high hopes that we already have a good indication that we do have some grants to help offset the cost from the money from the Board of Commissioners.
Commissioner Hoffman?
Can you give me an idea what we're talking about spending the money on, though? I understand what you said about grant money might offset the money we're possibly spend, but what will we specifically be spending this money on?
So I don't have the details, Commissioner Hoffman, per se, because this is going to be the first order of business to really lay out exactly what you're asking at our first ad hoc committee. What I can share with you is the cost similar to the Silver Tsunami. It's paying time put in to gathering the data that has been collected over the past decade, comparing it now with the present data that has been collected in light of the pandemic, and in addition to other data that has been collected in our senior communities. So I can definitely make sure that you and everyone else has a better understanding of how that money will be spent after the first meeting of the ad hoc committee.
Commissioner Hoffman?
What staff are you speaking of that we paid? Is it outside contractors, county employees?
And I don't want to speak incorrectly, but from my understanding, so organizations such as AAA1B, they were a significant partner in the development of the Silver Tsunami. And I believe as we do move forward with the creation of the strategic blueprint, that they will also be assisting with us in doing that. So from a consulting perspective, I'm assuming so, but again, I don't want to speak incorrectly because this is going to be the first order of business on the first meeting of this ad hoc committee.
Thank you. All right, Commissioner Hoffman, what else do you have?
Okay, so what did we spend money on the first go around? I'd like a specific. Do we pay the Area Agency on Aging to help us come up with the stats? Who did we pay? What do we?
Commissioner Hoffman, I want to drop reference. So there is additional information that we did send out, and I can have this sent out to commissioners if commissioners are interested. So there was a budget breakdown of how the money could be utilized. And it looks like from consultation services to meeting and communication costs, AAA1B staff costs, report design and printing, and additional miscellaneous indirect costs that were estimated at $3,000. Again, all of these are rough estimates of money, but it does give you a little bit better idea of how the money will be spent. A large percentage of the money will be spent on those consultative services of getting the data and then utilizing the data to drive a current updated strategic plan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner McGillicray? Did I see your hand up?
No.
Ah, sorry. Thank you. All right.
Madam
Then-
Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Nelson?
is Barbara, do we have Barbara online?
Yes.
Yes.
Barbara, can
yes.
you clarify Commissioner Hoffman's budgetary questions?
Yes, I was working with Triple A1B, as you mentioned, Commissioner, very correctly. They were working on a report in 2010, and we came up with the potential budget proposal work of scope, but nothing can be decided until the ad hoc committee is created and they have to vote on it. So I have a proposal how to spend the $50,000, but I cannot just decide, because it will be the leadership of the ad hoc committee that would have to approve it. So as Commissioner Nelson said correctly, consultation, there will be a survey, proposed for the printing cost materials of the report. So all of that is, as Commissioner Nelson correctly said, a rough estimate of how the $50,000 or up to $50,000 will be spent, but the final decision maker is the ad hoc committee.
Thank you for that clarification, Barbara. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else on this item? Roll call, please.
On item 5, Cavell,
Yes.
Kuhn,
No.
Powell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
McGillivray,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
7 yeas, 1 nay.
Motion carries. Thank you. We're on to other business, and I understand Cabe would like to make a comment in this area.
I apologize, Madam Chair. I meant to mention earlier, and I know Barbara doesn't want me to do this, but I'm doing it anyway. We had a large amount to cover today, as you know, under the consent agenda, and a lot of work went into that. And I just want to thank Barbara and your staff for working with Gaia and getting that accomplished. So thank you very much, Barbara.
Barbara is amazing, isn't she? So thank you. Thank you for stating it out loud, what we're all thinking. Is there any other business to come before this committee? Then this committee is adjourned at 12:21. Thank you, everybody.
Nope, Tom Kuhn had something. Nope.
Oh, I'm sorry,
That's easy.
Commissioner Kuhn. Hey, you're on mute.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Commissioner Cavell. I just had this perspective. I know that under the new rules, we get this information about grants in our communications. It might be helpful if somebody who's knowledgeable on those grants were here so that we could ask some questions. Just a thought.
Yeah, you're referencing the first item, correct? The hazard materials
Yeah.
emergency preparedness.
Yeah,
Thank
under
you.
communications, we're getting the information, and that's important, I think, for transparency and such. But it might be further help if we had somebody here who could answer questions about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Kuhn. Any other comments before we adjourn? All right, seeing none, the meeting is adjourned at 12:22.
Enjoy the day. Be